me for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear God, please bless our elected officials. Grant them courage and wisdom to do what is right for all citizens. Amen.
Amen. All right, thank you, Ms. Riska. Can we please have the roll call tonight?
Mayor Taylor?
Here.
Mrs. Roski?
Here.
Mrs. Koski?
Present.
Mr. Radke?
Present.
Mrs. Schmidt?
Present.
Mr. Yanez?
Here.
Present.
Thank you, Council. We need approval of the agenda tonight.
Mr. Mayor,
Mrs. Koski.
move to approve the agenda as presented. Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion?
Mayor Taylor,
Mrs. Schmidt.
I'd like to pull consent item 6E and make it 7D, please.
All right, 6E will be removed from the consent agenda and made consideration item 7D. Is there anything else, Council? With no further discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. First item on our agenda tonight is a report from our city manager, Mark Vanderpool. Mr. Vanderpool.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to begin my report with some really good news. First, all of you may know that we have Macomb County's only business incubator located right here in Sterling Heights. And the incubator accelerator is exactly what it sounds like. It's an innovation center to help businesses start up in our city or the region, and also accelerate them once they are started, to provide them the support services they need to grow, and eventually move on from the Velocity Collaboration Center into facilities, hopefully in Sterling Heights, but it could be anywhere in Macomb County. We don't necessarily care about that. Most times these projects really don't know municipal boundaries, but it's really great that Sterling Heights is home to the Velocity Innovation Center, and it's one piece of the very large puzzle that has resulted in a very robust business climate in our city, wherein we have 70,000 jobs in the city. So I think we can all take some pride in the Collaboration Center. And the good news this evening is a major grant that the center has received, thanks to the good work of April Boyle, who's a senior advisor for entrepreneurship and innovation of Velocity, and her team. And April is with us this evening. And I'm not even going to mention the amount because it's so significant. I don't want to steal any thunder from April. So thank you, April, for being here.
Sure. All right. Thank you. Well, good evening, Mayor and Council. Can you hear me? I can't tell if it's amplifying.
Now we
Oh, there it
can.
goes. All right. Well, I'm really excited to be here. Thank you, Mark, for inviting me. We're super excited to talk to you tonight about the Small Business Support Hubs grant that Velocity has been awarded. We will receive a total of $1.8 million over the next 3 years to support small businesses disproportionately affected by COVID-19. $1.5 million of that is to support capacity and team building, launch new programs, strengthen our hub through tech and equipment upgrades. We also have $300,000 to distribute as direct cash grants to small businesses across the county. So the grant was funded through the Michigan Strategic Fund and MEDC, the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, via the federal government, the American Rescue Plan Act, to the tune of $75 million. It was a highly competitive process with 80 total applications. 27 hubs were selected, so we were among a small few within 10 regions, and that includes a few statewide organizations as well. So the goal of the program really is to replicate replicate and expand the the smart zone network. So we are one of 21 smart zones across the state, and the smart zones were really focused on tech and manufacturing. But now this will expand that network to small businesses, so brick and mortar, lifestyle, micro enterprise, et cetera. Velocity is really excited to become that one-stop shop for everything small business, regardless of company size, sector, or life cycle. We believe in radical collaboration and cannot do this alone, so we really need our partners at the table and your support to ensure the success of this program. So a few ways you can get involved is please connect with us on social media, share our posts. We are on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. Attend our events and bring a guest, and we have tons of events happening, and we're going to be expanding that over the next few years. And then help us make some strategic connections and introductions with partners and business leaders in the community. So with that, I will close. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope you all have a great Thanksgiving.
And in the spirit of the Thanksgiving season, certainly we're thankful for the good work at Velocity and from April and her team. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And moving on, Mayor, I wanted to highlight the National League of Cities Summit that occurred last week. As you and the council members know, the city is a member of the National League of Cities, and the National League of Cities Summit took place this past week, and a number of council members attended along with myself in Atlanta, Georgia. And the whole purpose of this summit is connecting leaders from all across the country to gain knowledge and resources to help our cities thrive. And there were a number of key points that came up at the summit, and I wanted to highlight some of them because there's a great opportunity for us as a contingent to learn what other cities are doing in the name of best practices, but also to share many of our successes that we've had in Sterling Heights with others across the country. So, of course, it's no surprise that sustainability was a major theme of this summit this year. It's cities that are going to make a difference with climate change and sustainability across the world, but especially right here in the U.S. And it's amazing what a lot of the cities are doing, including our award-winning Sustainability Commission. And the chairperson, Nathan Inks, is in the audience today. The City Council created that Sustainability Commission a few years ago, and they're doing amazing work. But some of the topics under sustainability included EV infrastructure and all that communities are doing, including installing charging stations all over. And as you know, we're doing that here in Sterling Heights and getting prepared for the future, not only with our own charging stations, but also with new development as well, making sure that those developments are charging station ready, if you will. Home energy improvements is also a big theme across the country, making sure that our homes and commercial businesses, for that matter, are energy efficient and to the extent possible, carbon neutral. Of course, that's a long-range goal. We've done a lot of good work in Sterling Heights in that arena, working on our Go Green grants, providing funding for solar panels and other home energy improvements across the city. Community gardens. The City Council at the last meeting approved architectural services to build out our first ever community garden in Sterling Heights at Nelson Park. We're not necessarily the first to be doing this. Community gardens are now pretty common, but ours will certainly be considered a best practice when it's all said and done. We've been spending a lot of time in researching best practices in the area of community gardens. Abundant pathways. Cities all across the country are doing what they can to expand pathways. They're so important to quality of life in communities, and you know we're doing that in a big way right here in Sterling Heights, with now over 20 miles of pathway system across the city and growing by miles every year. So really proud of the good work we're doing there. Open space preservation. The Mayor and City Council have spent a lot of time talking about the need to preserve open space in the city wherever possible. Of course, we have the Dodge Park Trail System. We have the Nature Preserve up by M59 and Quinder, the Nature Center. But we're looking at other properties, too, across the city where we can continue to preserve this vitally important open space. Recycling is a big need across the country. And as you know, right here in Sterling Heights, this council approved the first ever universal curbside recycling program that will be implemented next year. Of course, affordable housing is a big challenge for cities all over the country, including our city, and we're working hard on pilot programs to implement more workforce housing, affordable housing, and so on, and looking at new concepts like pattern book housing and accessory dwelling units, which are going to be really important and a topic of discussion in our master plan development over the next couple of years. Community mental wellness, goes without saying, is a huge problem, a huge challenge for quality of life in communities across the country. And it was really, I think, gratifying to share a lot of the good work we're doing right here in that area, including our quick response team, where we're actually going out and helping individuals that overdose. Our police department has representatives. Instead of arresting these individuals, we're helping them get the services that they need, working hand in hand with nurses and other trained professionals. That is a model, not only in Michigan, but across the country. Of course, our social worker program, our drug-free coalition, our second chance drug and alcohol court program that was just implemented over the last year, Hope Not Handcuffs, partnerships with Families Against Narcotics and CARES, and the current community mental wellness strategic plan that we're about to embark on. All these efforts have kind of grown out in a grassroots fashion over the past few years in Sterling Heights, and we'll now be working on a strategic plan to tie them all together and give us a good way forward for the next few years as we address growing mental wellness needs in Sterling Heights. But it's not just a Sterling Heights issue, it's a nationwide problem in communities. And of course, innovation and technology. This was a topic in the State of the City and highlighted by the mayor recently. There's a lot of good work that communities are doing under the umbrella of augmented reality and innovation and artificial intelligence and so on. Imagine if you're a resident or a business and you can simply type in your address and get any piece of information you want related to your property, your federal, state legislators, your county representatives, your school district, your refuse collection, your property information, due dates for bills in the city, special events that may be coming up, anything targeted or related to your property. We have that ability now, but somehow we have to tie it together through artificial intelligence, make it more user-friendly. There are cities on the cutting edge of this, so we can learn from them, and we're developing, setting up our first ever artificial intelligence task force right here in Sterling Heights to implement some of these ideas and best practices. So as I mentioned, we were not only able to learn from what others are doing, but we're able to put forth all the good work we're doing here in Sterling Heights. So I certainly appreciated the opportunity to attend the summit, and we look forward to the City Council participating in future summits along with our managers and directors as well. And moving on, I wanted to mention that our Dodge Park Ice Rink will be opening on December 1st. And it looks like the weather will cooperate with us. In fact, there's a chance of snow on Sunday, so that's just a week later. So December 1st, you can look forward to the ice rink opening. This will be our 6th year of operation. We have about 20,000 people that visit the ice rink every year. It's a major focal point in our city, and we're pleased to announce our sponsors this year, which is the Sterling Heights Area Community Foundation, Versity, Blood Center of Michigan, Sopranos Catering, and Nothing But Cakes. So they're an important partner in making this community asset available to everyone. And also, 'tis the season for our Sterling Christmas, which will be the following day after the ice rink opens on Saturday, December 2nd from 5:30 to 8:30. And you all know what that's about: tree lighting, holiday music, a visit with Santa, horse-drawn wagon rides, and ice skating and so on. So important events coming up. We look forward to seeing you all there. And Mayor, that concludes my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Vanderpool. We have no presentations tonight, so the next item on our agenda is the consent agenda, of course, with the omission of item 6E, which has been moved to consideration item 7D. So is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak on any item on tonight's consent agenda? I'll take you first, ma'am.
Good evening. I'm here for consent letter L. My name is Melissa Crook, and I'm a member of Protective Parents Michigan. I would like to thank the city of Sterling Heights for acknowledging that child safety should be the priority in family court and custody decisions. Most people do not understand the catch-22 of domestic violence. Women are encouraged to leave their abusive situations, but when they have children, they are thrust into family court, which seems to have no understanding of domestic abuse, which can put children in harm's way. In fact, women are often told by their lawyers not to mention abuse, as they may lose custody of their children if they do. Tragically, abuse is not understood or believed by the courts, and 58,000 children in the U.S. each year are ordered into unsupervised contact with physically or sexually abusive parents. I want to share some statistics so you can see why family court reform is needed. Most child abuse is perpetrated in the family by a parent. Period. Abusive parents are more likely to seek sole custody and are successful 70% of the time. Children are 3 times as likely to be shot at home than in a mass school shooting. And 1 child dies every 6 days amid custody fights and family court cases. Since 2008, 37 children have been murdered during divorce and custody battles in Michigan. Research indicates that allegations of child physical and sexual abuse are regularly discounted by the courts when raised in custody cases. Less than 1/4 are believed. And if the abusive father claims the mother is alienating the children, only 1 out of 51 cases of child sexual abuse claims are believed. I am standing before you as a member of Protective Parents Michigan because it has been 972 days since Oakland County Family Court removed my then 4, almost 5-year-old daughter from my home in Macomb County because she accused her father of sexually abusing her. Macomb County CPS believed her, especially after her forensic interview. My daughter's father claimed I made up those allegations and coached our daughter in order to alienate him. That magic word didn't work in Macomb County, but it was all the judge in Oakland County needed to hear to sever contact between my daughter and I. The solution is to enact Caden's Law in Michigan so that what happened to my daughter and I does not happen to another child in Michigan. Caden's Law needs to apply retroactively for protected parents that lost custody to the abusive parent so they can regain custody of their children. Caden's Law is focused on prioritizing child protection over parents' rights. If Caden's Law had existed in March 2021, my daughter would be safe at home with me, her protective, loving mommy. Caden's Law was named after Caden Mancuso, A 7-year-old girl murdered by her father during court-ordered unsupervised parenting time after the court ignored the father's history of abuse. Caden's Law was passed by Congress in the Violence Against Women's Act 2022, and it would provide funding to our state to educate judges and guardian ad litems about all the types of abuse, including coercive control and emotional and psychological abuse that leave invisible scars.
Now, ma'am, I want to, don't mean to cut you off.
Yeah.
Because I know this is very emotional, and I appreciate you coming and telling us. We do have a 4-minute time limit, and you've gone about a minute over. So I don't want to, just shoo you out. But
No,
if
that's
you don't
fine.
mind wrapping up, I'll give
Yes,
you another 30
absolutely.
seconds or so to just wrap up. And if there's any more information you want to provide to us, you can either give it to our city clerk, or you can certainly email or call any one of us. Okay?
Yes, yes, absolutely,
Go-
sorry.
Go ahead and wrap up.
Okay, so, Protective Parents Michigan, we're working to shed light on the failures of family court and also work with our state legislature to pass Caden's Law here in Michigan. I have information for all of you on who to contact. So that will go through the Family, Children, and Seniors Committee. And actually, one of the members of that committee is Representative Doug Wozniak, who lives here in Macomb County, and he is a champion of these types of causes. So messaging him, he is the co-chair, and then the chair is Representative Stephanie Young out of District 16. So I have that information for all of you and anybody else that would like that. And lastly, I want to thank you for proclaiming November as Family Court Awareness Month in the city of Sterling Heights. It means the world, not only to me, but to all the parents in Michigan who are struggling to protect their children in family court.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. And like I said, if you have anything that you want to get to us, you can give it to our city clerk right there.
Okay, all right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Nelson?
Good evening, council, mayor. I'm speaking on item number M of the consent agenda. I see that we're setting a public hearing for trying to get another PUD 230004 scheduled for a public hearing. Now, what's happened to us in the past is a public hearing means public, this is your only time to come and speak on these PUDs. The council more than likely will be making a decision that night. And what I'm requesting is that I suspect that we're going to have a lot of pushback on this PUD. Doesn't look like it's any different. I would like to know if this is the same developer coming back the second time to give you what you wanted. And it's going to be held, public hearing on December 19th. 6 days, 3 business days, I think, unless you're closed on Friday. 3 business days before Christmas. You're going to have a lot of people that are not going to be showing up here that want to speak on this item that are not going to be coming during the holidays. So I'm requesting that you change this public hearing date into January because you will have pushback, and it is another PUD, and it looks exactly the same as the last one. And be prepared for the sewer people and the traffic people. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Nelson. Anybody else on the consent agenda? Would you like to speak? Do you have something to talk about on the consent agenda? Okay, so then we'll have public comment after the agenda's over. Shouldn't be too long, knock on wood, okay? All right, with no one else, council, we need a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Mrs. Koski.
move to approve the consent agenda as amended. Support.
It's been moved and supported with no discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item up tonight is to consider approval of a memorandum of understanding between the City of Sterling Heights and Local 1557 of the International Association of Firefighters. We do have a presentation from our city manager, Mark Vanderpool. Mr. Vanderpool.
Thank you, Mayor. As you and council know, we recently completed the fire department's multi-year strategic plan. You were all involved in that. It's a very collaborative process and outlined a number of recommended improvements, if you will, that we should be implementing over the next few years. And we've been hard at work at getting that done. And one of those recommendations is to affect some organizational practices with respect to promotions. So city administration engaged with Local 1557 of the International Association of Firefighters, our union, to discuss whether the current promotional process for the rank of battalion chief could be modified to introduce a more competitive merit-based assessment center rather than the current process, which is based primarily on seniority. City administration and the leadership of the union were able to negotiate and agree upon terms and conditions of a memorandum of understanding, which is before you this evening, to establish a new promotional process for this rank of battalion chief. So a little bit of background on the battalion chiefs. Currently, the fire department has 3 battalion chiefs. This rank is critical to the 24/7, 365 schedule of the fire department. So 1 battalion chief is on duty for a 24-hour shift, and he or she oversees the entire operations then of that 24-hour period at all 5 stations. The battalion chief is the incident commander as well for a coordinated Sterling Fire Department response to any major event, whether it's a small fire, large fire, or the like. Under the current CBA text, a fire captain is eligible for promotion to battalion chief, again, primarily based on their seniority and their time served in their rank as captain. There is no requirement or opportunity for an assessment center. So the MOU amends the promotional process as follows. First, eligible fire captains seeking to promote to the rank of battalion chief must participate in a competitive assessment center and achieve a passing score of 70% or higher. And as you may know, Mayor and Council, we contract our assessment centers with MCO. They handle all of our assessment centers for promotions in the police department, and we'll do the same with this particular rank. The top 3 candidates based on the assessment center score and seniority points, so seniority will still be a factor, but not a primary factor or the sole factor. So they must participate in this competitive interview by a 5-member promotional committee, which is already provided for under the current CBA. That committee will score the individuals, rank them, and then the top individual, including their oral interview points from the committee, will then be promoted to battalion chief. City administration is recommending approval of the MOU before you. It is consistent with the recommendation of the Dynamics Consulting Group, who helped coordinate and produce a multi-year strategic plan to ensure candidates possess a minimum skill set and abilities commensurate with this leadership position. And I'd really like to take this opportunity to thank the union leadership, the fire chief, the assistant city manager, our manager for their good work in negotiating the MOU. The city and union are also working on many other ideas outlined in the strategic plan, which you're going to see very soon, including the implementation of an assistant fire chief, which addresses a lack of sufficient command personnel to effectively lead the fire department long term, and a number of other ideas, including implementation of a equipment deployment study and community risk assessment to make sure that we're aligning our equipment with the scope of the call that's made. So that's forthcoming as well. So in closing, I respectfully request approval of the MOU before you this evening. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Vanderpool. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak on this item? Not, council, we need a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Yanas.
resolved to approve the memorandum of understanding between the City of Sterling Heights and Local 1557 of the International Association of Firefighters to establish a new competitive promotional process for the rank of battalion chief and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign it on behalf of the city.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any discussion, Mr. Yanas?
I think it's a good plan. It's a good idea. The time has come to do this. I do appreciate that everyone coming together at the table and working this out to help move the fire department forward so we can be a modern firefighting force. We are one of the best fire departments in the state, and we want to stay ahead of the curve, and I think this will help us do it, Mr. Mayor. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Yanas. Council, anyone else? Mr. Radke.
I want to echo Councilman Yanez's comments. I want to commend Local 1557 for working with the city and coming up with this agreement. I think this is a good first step to really implementing some of the changes that were in the report, and I appreciate Local 1557's work on this issue to make a better fire department for our city. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Radke. Council, anyone else? No further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next up tonight is another consideration item, and this is to consider approval of a First Amendment to the conditional rezoning agreement between the City of Sterling Heights and Gallo Companies LLC for the development of the Sterling Park Place Apartments on the east side of Shaner Road between 14 Mile and 15 Mile in Section 36, PZ 22-0002. We do have a presentation from our city planner, Dr. Jake Parcell. Dr. Jake.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor, Mr. Vanderpool, Mr. Koszubski, members of council. I will keep this very short tonight. I just have a one-page rendering to show you as we kind of talk through this. In June of 2022, Sterling Park Place was approved by City Council. You'll see the rendering here with the proposed sign that is in front of you tonight. Originally was proposed to be 48 square feet. When the sign permits came in, we worked with Mr. Gallo to discuss sign options for the building for visibility, and we came to a sign being approximately 83.38 square feet, which is approximately 4% of this wall face, serving to help provide sufficient advertising onto Shaner. Typically, a sign on a wall face like this is allowed to be no larger than 200 square feet. This sign is substantially smaller than that. We also allow up to 10% of the wall face, and since that's over 2,000 square feet, we're not exceeding those limitations either. So the reason this is in front of you this evening is the conditional rezoning agreement puts the impetus on City Council to improve an increase in all signage. So we have in front of you an increase of 35.38 square feet to the proposed wall sign, which will look quite similar to what you see on the rendering here. The applicant was not able to attend this evening, so I am open for questions on behalf of him and in regards to the conditional rezoning agreement.
Okay, thank you very much. To the audience, is there anyone who'd like to speak on this? If not, council, we need a motion.
Mayor Taylor,
Mr. Schmidt.
resolve to approve the First Amendment to conditional rezoning agreement between the City of Sterling Heights and Gallo Companies LLC for the development of the Sterling Park Place Apartments on the east side of Shaner Road between 14 Mile Road and 15 Mile Road in Section 36, PZ 22-0002, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the agreement on behalf of the city.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any discussion? Mrs. Schmidt.
Thank you, Mayor. Through the chair to Dr. Parcell, will the sign in front still continue to be there, or just the wall sign?
There will be a monument sign as well.
Okay, so the monument sign will be there, but it's low to the ground, not like.
Yeah.
I really have no issue with this. I do wish Mr. Gallo were here tonight because I've been past that building and it's pretty much finished and very well lit. And my concern is the lighting is so bright on Shaner that I'm hoping that either we can go out there and make sure he's not violating our light ordinance, or if he can just angle those lights down farther because it really is distracting when it is very well lit because the lights are actually on the building.
Yeah, I reviewed the photometrics as part of this, and there should be what's allowed within our spillover under our code of ordinances. What happens a lot of times on the new structures, the shielding just is adjusted incorrectly upon installation. So I'll work with the code department and Mr. Gallo to go out there and make sure that it's being properly installed.
Great. I'm sure it's just a simple adjustment, but I wanted to bring that to his attention.
I
So.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, I have nothing further.
Thank you, Mr. Schmidt. Council, anyone else? No further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next up tonight is to consider appointments to the City of Sterling Heights boards and commissions. Anyone have any comments in the audience on this item? Seeing none, we have few openings. So first, we have appointment to the Zoning Board of Appeals. This is the second step in a two-step process. Council, is there anyone who'd like to make an appointment there?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Radke.
resolved to appoint Jeff Shahab to the Zoning Board of Appeals to a term ending June 30th, 2026, subject to the appointee meeting the qualifications set forth in Charter subsection 4.03, taking the oath of office within 2 weeks.
Support. It's been moved and supported. Any discussion?
Just briefly, Mr. Mayor, Jeff has been an alternate on the Zoning Board of Appeals and has been currently serving in the role since there's a vacancy. I think it'll be great to elevate him to the full board.
Okay, I agree. Council, anyone else? No further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next up is the Economic Development Corporation Brownfield Redevelopment Authority. This is an open position with the mayoral appointment to a partial term ending June 30th, 2025. Having discussed this with city administration, there is a recommendation I received for Riley Maher, a young resident of the city of Sterling Heights, who I know quite well, a professional who would fit in very well on this board. So I would appreciate it if somebody on the council could make the motion to appoint Riley Maher.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Yanes.
resolve to appoint Riley Marr to the Economic Development Corporation Brownfield Development Authority to a term ending June 30th, 2025, subject to the appointee meeting the qualifications set forth in Charter 4.03 and taking the oath of office within 2 weeks.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion? Mr. Yanes.
Yeah, Riley was recently appointed to the Sustainability Commission. I think you've described him quite appropriately. He's a very bright young man, a homeowner here in the city. I think he'll do a great job on this committee.
Council, anyone else? I certainly agree. So thank you, Mr. Yanes, and thank you for making the motion, Mr. Radke. With no further, or I'm sorry, Mr. Yanes, thank you for making the motion. With no further discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. There are two more positions to the Elected Officials Compensation Commission, and I don't have anybody. And this board's not going to meet again until February of 2025, is that correct, Mrs. Riska? Okay, so I would like to postpone this to, I don't want to do it in, I don't want to do it now. I'd like some time. I don't want to say June, because June is very busy with appointments. So why don't we say the first meeting in August, and I can promise I'll have two appointments then. Will that give you enough time, or is that to get them signed up and?
Yep, that will be a Wednesday meeting because of the election.
Second meeting in August.
Next year.
I mean, we can do it on a Wednesday meeting. We can do it on a Wednesday. It doesn't matter.
It'll be August 7th then.
Is there an election next year?
3 of them.
I can't wait. Okay, well, let's postpone it to is it August 7th? So I'd entertain a motion to postpone both openings on the Elected Officials Compensation Commission to the August 7th, 2024 City Council meeting.
So moved.
Support.
Been moved and supported with no discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And the next item up on our agenda tonight is 6E from the consent agenda. This is to approve a cost-sharing agreement between the City of Sterling Heights, Charter Township of Clinton, and the Macomb County Department of Roads for asphalt resurfacing of Moravian Drive from Shaner Road to Garfield Road. Estimated city share of project cost, $1,728,000. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak on this item? If not, Mrs. Schmidt, would you like to make a motion?
I sure would. Thank you, Mayor. Resolve to approve the cost-sharing agreement for the asphalt resurfacing of Moravian Drive from Shaner Road to Garfield Road, subject to the approval by the Macomb County Department of Roads and the Charter Township of Clinton. 2, authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the agreement on behalf of the City of Sterling Heights. And 3, authorize a budget amendment to use $228,000 of major road fund balance reserves to complete the project.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any discussion, Mrs. Schmidt?
Just very briefly, Mayor, first of all, I can't be more happy about this project, all the way from Shaner to Garfield. It's long awaited, and my teeth will thank you along with everyone else that travels Moravian. But through the chair to Mr. Vanderpool. Mr. Vanderpool, when we're going through this process, is it possible for us to recommend or require some sort of weight limit or commercial truck usage, axle, limits, just to, there's a lot of cut-through 18-wheelers down Moravian. And I'm afraid that, it's just going to wreck the road quick. So is it possible to make that part of the conversation?
Mr. Vanderpool.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Councilwoman Schmidt, we certainly can express our concern and offer up some ideas there. The county Department of Roads has been cooperative with us in the past on issues like this. So I hope there is a solution we can work out with them, and I appreciate you bringing it to the table, and we'll certainly take a look at it and report back to you.
Thank you. I have nothing further, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Schmidt. Council, anyone else?
Mayor
Mrs.
Taylor?
Zarko.
I want to agree with Mrs. Schmidt about the weight limits on Moravian. I'd like to know if we're going to do the sidewalk gap there at the same time, because at least in the Sterling Heights part, that would be from, I think it's maybe Belisara to Hayes, I think would be our part. And and if we could talk Clinton Township into doing theirs as well, it would help. It would make a whole square around that area, and people ride their bikes, they walk, and they're walking actually on people's property in order to get around. So if we could do the sidewalk gap there, that would be great. And we've been talking about this for a long time. Even before COVID, I believe, was when the discussions first came up. But I did notice that we're taking this from major road fund balance, and this is not ARPA funding, correct? Through the chair to Mr. Vanderpool.
Mr. Vanderpool.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilwoman Zarko, that's correct. This is from our major road fund, so it is not ARPA.
Okay, thank you. Nothing further.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Zarko. Mr. Radke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilwoman Zarko beat me to it. My question was going to be if we could try to fill the sidewalk gap that exists on Moravian Road while we're doing the work there. It seems to be foolish to come back later and stop the road for twice to get the same work done. I think it'd be tremendous to fill that gap and really add it to our major roads that we've filled gaps on since we've started talking about this several years ago. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Radke. Anyone else? No further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We will now move on to communications from citizens. This will be their time. Would you like to go first, ma'am? All right, come on up.
I'm speaking for the seniors at Pine Ridge at Plumbrook. They have a non-emergency lift that they use through the fire department. And I didn't realize it at the time, but the seniors have been turned over that bill of $800. and I made some inquiries. I spoke to Kevin at the fire department, and he was saying that they go there at least once a week for the non-emergency lifts for the seniors. And sadly enough, the senior citizen complex is turning it over to the seniors to pay that bill. And I would like that changed to where they are notified that they are not to turn that over to the seniors. Even on the bill copy, it says Sterling Heights Treasury, and it is addressed to Pine Ridge of Plumbrook, and not to the apartment or the person that was assisted by the fire department. Okay?
Okay.
I know I only have 4 minutes, so I was
Well,
gonna
you got
keep
plenty,
it
you got
short.
plenty more time. But another rule we have is that we don't really engage in back and forth. So
Oh, okay.
we'll all have an opportunity to speak in a few minutes, and any one of the council members can address your concerns, but we just don't engage in back and forth.
Oh, okay. Because I made a couple inquiries about it, and from these inquiries, they were saying that they did that to keep the non-emergency calls at a low limit for the fire department. And sadly enough, these facilities are just turning the bills over to the seniors. They're making them pay the facility, and then they're paying it to the treasury. To me, it seems like they're covering it up, saying, oh, here, we're paying you for that service, when they're actually taking it out of the senior pockets, and they're on a limited income. And sometimes it's up to the other family members to make up that bill. So I wish there could be something done in black and white to make them take responsibility. That's it, thank you.
Understood. Okay, thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it. Anyone else under communications from citizens? Yes, sir?
Good evening, everyone. Ben Soroka, former resident of Sterling Heights, currently residing in Clinton Township at the moment. But so I grew up here during COVID for a hot second when I was working here in the city. I quit my job and ended up cycling, and I fell in love with riding on Dodge Park trails up to Rivers Bend, Orchard Trail, everything like that. I love cycling, and it's definitely become a part of my identity. And I want to say that I saw your guys' news in the Free Press about the bike trail that was going to Lakeside Mall from, I believe, at the Clinton River entrance of the Dodge Park Trail, and I want to voice full support for this. I also want to say, please don't stop short. Hall Road is very scary to bike on. If you've ever been in a pedestrian setting on Hall Road, it is terrifying. That is a very scary road to be a pedestrian on. It is meant for cars. I would highly recommend a pedestrian overpass on Hall Road to make it onto the north side, where you could have shopping experiences on the thrift stores that are on the north side of the store, on the storefront. There's also Best Buy, some other large retailers that would benefit from foot traffic. It's shown that when you cycle or in a pedestrian setting, you actually spend more, and you're more likely to spend more than if you're a car dependent user. I would also like to say that if you connect south, I know right now, I know you guys were just talking about the Meridian Road. I'm not sure, I didn't do my homework on this, if Maple is being extended for the shoulders as well. But the potential for heading south, you could make a connection to the Macomb Community College North Campus and the Central Campus on 13 Mile Road or 12 Mile Road? Yeah, 12 Mile Road, sorry, on 12 Mile Road. And you could actually really connect the campuses together. It ends up being a pretty quick route. I know right now there's the Iron Bell Trail. In its current state is not very bikeable either. It has you on Van Dyke, and that is also a very scary road to bike on. This would be amazing if we could have a dedicated bike trail in the center of a power line. I would like to point to you guys for example of a great example of this is in Milwaukee, just west of it, is a bike trail that they built in the center of a power line. It is a perfect example. You are able to bike from Milwaukee all the way to the Mississippi River and not have to touch a single road at all. It is amazing what Wisconsin has done. They were first adapters of the bike trail. The 400 bike trail is the first bike trail that was introduced, rail to trail program, and they've really set an example for how to do bike trails over there. I biked from Sterling Heights to Minneapolis, so that's how I know that. But yeah, I just want to let you guys voice my opinion of this subject and how much I approve of it. And it's been something that I've dreamed of and written on maps and stuff like that. I hate to say I'm a nerd about it, but I love it so much, and I really am excited to see it happen. Please don't stop short. Really, really, please don't stop short. Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you very much, Ben. How long did that take?
12 days.
12 days?
2 days of rest I had. I got there in 10.
Awesome. Good for you. Good for you. Anyone else under communications from citizens? If not, we'll close that portion and go on to reports from city administration. Mr. Vanderpool, anything more for tonight?
Mayor, just a quick response to both residents. First, the resident who spoke about Pine Ridge and the lift assist ordinance that was passed by City Council previously. I wanted to give just a brief historical perspective on that and the need for it. We have 27 senior facilities across the city, and those facilities in most cases market themselves as full-service facilities like Pine Ridge. And they market the fact that they have medical care and emergency services available. And by doing so, they're able to charge a much higher monthly rate, way above market rate. For example, Pine Ridge could be anywhere between $4,000 and $6,000 a month, which is below the cost at a full assisted living facility, but nonetheless above market rates, way above market rates, because they market these services. But in reality, they don't have anyone on site to respond to these lift assists. And instead, our fire department has to respond to them. And in most cases, they're not necessarily 911 emergency life-threatening calls. So thus, the lift assist ordinance was developed wherein facilities are charged an $800 fee per occurrence. Now, you're right. What's happening here is that the owners, especially at Pine Ridge, are passing that on to the individual seniors, if you will. 90% of the individuals in these facilities are seniors, and they shouldn't be doing that. Instead, that $800 fee should be included in their overall operational costs. So let's say, for example, at Pine Ridge, we know that there's 110 apartments there. And let's say that they have 100 lift assists every year. $80,000 divided by those units, divided by a monthly rate, equates to approximately $60 per month, or 1.5% of the current monthly rate that they're paying, 1.5%. That's what should be passed on to seniors, not $800. $60 in this example compared to $800. So we've got to take a look at that, and we can continue to review it with the owners of Pine Ridge, but the reality is they'll probably keep doing this. So we have to look at some legal remedies perhaps to see if we can require them not to do this. I think the city attorney would say that would be a challenge, but nevertheless, we have to keep working on it because it's really not right for them to pass that directly on to the individuals. Any one of the 100 or so, 100 plus residents could have a lift assist need. So to bill them all individually just isn't an equitable way to do it. So appreciate your concern. We'll continue to take a look at that. And we also encourage you to apply some pressure to ownership as well. Because as someone who has a loved one in there, you need to defend them as well. We need your help as well. For the individual spoke about our trail system, and I'm pleased that you know about the section going to M59. The Iron Belt Trail System, as you mentioned, passes right through Sterling Heights. We're the epicenter, which is super cool. And you're right, it does have a major economic development impact to the city and surrounding region. In our master plan for our trail system is running the path from 14 all the way down the ITC corridor. So you'll have a straight shot. The first phase is from Clinton River up to M59, but the next phase is from 14 up to Clinton River, and a pedestrian bridge going over the Clinton River. I guess that would be the third phase. So there is a process here. It does take time. As you know, working with the utility companies like ITC is a real challenge, getting these paths approved. But we completed the first phase, which is a giant step forward. So now that we have that approved, they're more inclined to approve the other two phases as well. And lastly, your concern about M59 is spot on. We are working with all the communities through a grant that we received through the Southeastern Michigan Council of Governments, a $50,000 grant, to study the entire corridor from Utica down to 94. All the communities in between are participating in that grant cost share, including Sterling Heights. And the purpose of the grant is to design a more cohesive corridor. It's very disjointed right now. It's nothing like the Woodward corridor, and it could be the Woodward corridor and so much more when you consider the assets along that corridor. One of the features we're looking at is pedestrian movement around that corridor, including pedestrian access, whether it's a tunnel, bridge, or the like, at various points along the corridor. So there will be a public engagement period. I hope you left your name with the clerk. If you didn't, you should, because I want to make sure the consultant helping us with that study has your contact information to make sure you're notified. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Vanderpool. Mr. Koszybski?
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
All right, I'll open it up to council then. Mrs. Sarowski.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Taylor. Sorry, Mr. Radke. I'll go first. So I'm going to address the residents about Pine Ridge first. I'm a nurse, and I've been working with patients and residents for years and years and years. I'm a director of a facility of priests, retired priests, but I am going to highly, just as City Manager Vanderpool encouraged you to, I'm highly encouraging you to fight this, because this was intended to put pressure on the facilities who you pay to take care of your loved ones, to hire people to pick them up off the floor and to get them back to bed and to get them back into their rooms. Your money is what's paying for that, and they're not doing it. They're not hiring the people to do that. They're instead calling our fire department to help, and we'll go and help because there's nobody else, and we know that, they know that. But then there should not be sending that bill on to you and your residents. So I'm highly encouraging you to stand together in reaching out to other residents, families, and the other residents. And I know seniors, they get a bill and they're like, oh my gosh, I have to pay this. I have to pay it. I've got a bill. And so they're very, very attuned to making sure that bills are paid. And so don't. Is my advice. I don't mean to go into arrears or get to, but band together, because this is what the money that you're paying to have that loved one cared for, you're paying for this, and they're not doing it. So that is why we did this, to hold their feet to the fire, to make them care for their residents, to have them stop using us as their free labor. And so now if they're sending that on to you, that tells me that they are just not the place to be, but unfortunately you have to be where you are at this time. And it is hard to find a new place and to relocate it, and not recommending, but just tell you, if you can, maybe you should. But at this time, band together and be strong, because that is not a bill. Do not pay it, and fight it. Okay, well, thank you. Yes, you're very welcome. But to the rest of the residents, I want to thank the residents that came out to Putting on the Ritz, our fundraiser for Sterling Heights Community Foundation. It was a wonderful event, and we did raise a lot of good money for that community foundation. We support education, cultural events, and recreational events throughout the city. And although it has some things that we would like to maybe improve, it was a great event for that time. And I do want to thank everyone for coming out and spending their money and their time for that. And then, briefly, happy Thanksgiving to all the residents coming up for this next week. I have my son and my granddaughter and my daughter-in-law are in town. I'm so excited. I can't tell you how excited I am, but see my face? So very happy about that. And then also to encourage people, December 2nd is going to be our Sterling Christmas. And I'm very excited about it, just saying. So looking forward to have everyone enjoy your holidays. And however you celebrate, just know that this is a time to get together with family, to enjoy each other, and just wish you a very best times together with your family. And that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Sarowski. Mr. Radke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Briefly, through the chair to Mr. Koszybski, we bill the senior center homes when we have to go out there to do a lift assist. What right do they have to push that bill onto their residents? Is it part of their contracts, or how are they scheming it up to pass this fee, which has their name on it, to someone else?
Mr. Koszybski.
That's a great question, Councilman Radke. It may be in their lease, it may not be. They may just be passing the bill on as a charge. They may not have any right to do it. I don't know, because I don't have any of their leases to know. But the residents do have the ability to speak up, and they should be challenging that bill. It is, our ordinance specifically says that we bill the facility.
Is there any way we could change our ordinance to make it clear that they have to pay this fee and not pass it on to the residents?
That would be very difficult in my mind to control how that would be done. It's a difficult thing to tell a business what they can do with whatever the charge is, because most businesses will pass the charge that they get downstream, unless if they have a right to do it through a contract. Their leases may not have that right. I don't know.
It's one thing to pass it on indirectly, like City Manager Vanderpool said, where they spread out across everyone. It's another thing to bill them directly for emergency services. And I feel for you folks, because this is not the purpose. You know, we set this ordinance into place because of the abuse that these senior homes have done to our emergency 911 system. You know, 911 is for everyone, and when our crews are tied up lifting seniors off the floor in non-emergent situations, it harms our entire system here in Sterling Heights for the safety of everyone. So it's nothing we think about just willy-nilly. We did this on purpose, but it seems that these companies are protecting their profit margins and abusing their residents, and that's offensive to me. So I want to make sure that we really think long and hard. And I hope that maybe we can have some discussion at strategic planning about ways to maybe tighten up our ordinance or see what other cities did. Because if they're doing it in Sterling Heights, I know that I think it's West Bloomfield has this, or several other communities have this.
Several communities have it now.
How are they experiencing it? Are they doing the same thing there, or have they tweaked their ordinance in some way to prevent this? I guess I'd hope for some of that at strategic planning.
We are looking into that.
Thank you, Mr. Koszybski. More than that, I wanted to talk briefly about the city summit in Atlanta that I had the pleasure of attending this last week. One thing that I thought was remarkable about Atlanta is they have a Beltline trail that goes all the way around their center of their city on a former rail line. It's 22 plus miles. They're continually expanding it. It has east, west, north, south, and they are getting tremendous mixed use and commercial development along it. It's a 12-foot wide trail. If you read about it in the New York Times, they joked about that it was a 12-foot wide sidewalk, but it's so much more than that. We had the pleasure of meeting with the nonprofit organization that runs the Beltline, Beltline Inc., Atlanta Beltline Inc., and they kind of have a private-public partnership to run the trail for residents. And they said that last year they had over 1 million visits to the Beltline. They have trackers in the sidewalk that counts people as they go by, an infrared system. And I just thought it was tremendous. I happened to visit both the east and west Beltline. They have now a Ponce City Market right at the end of the Beltline, a former Sears and Roebuck catalog warehouse, which they've turned into an open-air market, kind of like Seattle's market or something else like that. And just the energy on the Beltline, it was packed. There were people on bicycles, there were people on scooters, there were people walking. And it really is a way to get out and see your community in a safe way. I kept on thinking about how we're expanding our trail system from Lakeside all the way down. And I think that this is a tremendous opportunity that we have with that linking up to the 15.5-mile relief train trail from Hayes going west to DeQuinder. And if we could do a trail system that kind of bisects our city, how much, not only development, but how much safer our residents would be walking around, how much more exercise they would get, and how much this would really link up our community and make it safer. So I thought that Atlanta was a perfect example of that. They started this in 2003, they said. So they got 20 years on us, but hopefully in 20 years, we can have a very linked and tremendous trail system for our residents. I also attended sessions on transit and places for people. You know, so much of what we're talking about at the National League of Cities and at the MML, and even amongst ourselves, is making our cities more pedestrian friendly, making it safer to walk. We talked a lot about multimodal transit, which is not just bus or rail or bikes or cars, but every way to get around so people can have choices on how they do it. I appreciate, I think it was Mr. Soroka, I'm sorry, who came up here and talked about how much he loves the Dodge Park trails and the system we want to set up there. And I really want to think about multimodal purposes on Hall Road. I'm not so much about overpasses or underpasses. If you look at the Woodward corridor now, they're making space for people on the corridor. They are changing the way the corridor works. Because at the end of the day, when you take people out of the built environment, either up or down or through, you're still prioritizing the vehicles driving through the corridor over the people trying to use the corridor. And that's what gets me so frustrated about Hall Road at times, is that we've made it so easy and fast for people from Pontiac to drive to Harrison Township and not stop to do business or eat or drink or do anything that would spend money in Sterling Heights. And we, that's a collective, we, the city, we foot the bill for all of that. We pay millions of dollars to make Hall Road as fast and dangerous as possible. And we can do better. We can do better for the residents who live off of Hall Road, the people who want to visit that area, and the folks who actually live in Sterling Heights, because we shouldn't prioritize people driving through our town as fast as possible over the people who want to live here. So I think that when we really do that study, Mr. Vanderpool, and I'm very excited about linking up the corridor, we need to think about the people who live here first and not the people who are driving through as quickly as they can. And with that, happy Thanksgiving. I'm hopefully going to get up north and hunt a little bit, but it was a tremendous week in Atlanta. And, you know, whenever you get to meet elected officials from across the country, you realize that we all have some, you know, they're all a little bit different, but we have a lot of similar problems. And you hear so many good ideas from people. And one thing I thought was great was we did a whole presentation on the opioid crisis and ways to solve the opioid crisis. And literally the lady was basically advocating for our comeback quick response team. We had the solution that they were saying, you need to get the solution. And we have already implemented here in Sterling Heights. And just talking to our colleagues from across the country about our quick response team, I know some of them wanted more information, but it shows that we are really on the cutting edge here in Sterling Heights on rolling out services to our residents to help our residents. And I was so proud in that moment because they were talking about just getting to that point, and we've had it for a couple of years now. And for the people who've come to our council meetings, we've had tremendous success with helping people both when they overdose and then hopefully stopping the use of drugs and getting back with their families. So I want to commend the city for that. And I urge everyone to really get involved because to me, it was just a tremendous way to see what people were doing. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Radke. Any prediction for Saturday, a score? Would you like to go on record?
Michigan's going to kill Ohio State.
Okay, we'll see about that. Thank you, Mr. Radke.
Okay.
Would you like, shall I go to Mrs. Zarko next?
You can.
Maybe you better.
I'm not, no, I'm going to let.
Mrs. Koski.
go.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As it was mentioned by Mayor Pro Tem Sarosky, the Community Foundation had their fundraising gala this last week. They also have ads in our Sterling Heights Winter magazine. I was on council when that foundation was formed back in the early 90s. Mayor Jean Gosch was, of course, mayor at that time, and she was the one that kind of led the charge to form that foundation. And the idea of having that foundation was to purchase or do things for the residents of Sterling Heights that would not be a budget item. Money was kind of tight, so we were very frugal as to what we were spending money on. So the idea was to form a foundation where we could provide the extra little goodies, shall we say, for the residents by raising money. I know the foundation today does a tremendous job with scholarships. In fact, I would say they're probably known for their scholarships. They have some great board members that donate towards scholarships. But I would like to see something a little bit more. Now, the city does our Vision 2030. What are our plans? What direction do we want to lead the city in? How are we going to spend our money? I would like to see the foundation do a 2040 vision plan to let the residents know what their vision is. How are they going to make life a little bit better, happier, fun for the residents of Sterling Heights? To say to somebody, what would you like the foundation to do? You can't just do that. You have to give them some ideas. You have to say, this is the direction that we as foundation members want to go. So I'm proposing that we have a little meeting with the foundation. Now, I do know that they're an autonomous group. That is not council's position to interfere. We have created this group, this foundation, and it's up to them to make plans. But I think council deserves a little insight as to exactly what their vision is. So through the chair to Mr. Vanderpool, can you help me out? What can we do to maybe have a meeting, a communication with the board members to have them put together a 2040 vision, share it with council? Let us have a little bit of input as to some of the things that we really don't want to put in the budget, but would like to see happen for the residents of Sterling Heights. Can you help me out there?
Mr. Vanderpool.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilwoman Koski, you've raised a lot of interesting and valid points. First, let me back into a couple of your comments. You're correct that the Sterling Heights Area Community Foundation is legally autonomous from the city. But you're also correct in stating that the city, for all intent and purposes, created the foundation many years ago. And in addition, we provide in-kind services to the foundation. We, in essence, staff the foundation. Our community relations director, Melanie Davis, and her entire team help support the community foundation. So we do have a vested financial interest. So I think your points are spot on. And we work with all of our partners to ensure that they're doing all they can to have good long-range plans. For example, the Chamber of Commerce, now Connect Macomb, recently went through a multi-year strategic planning process, and we're very involved in Connect Macomb and have been for many, many years. Now, they didn't have to do it because we're interested in doing it. They did it because it's best practice. But other groups like Velocity, who you heard from earlier tonight, just went through a multi-year strategic planning process. They, too, are autonomous from the city, although we have some very valuable relationships with them. So I do agree, and in fact, we've had some conversations with the foundation chairman, Dr. Marty Brown, talking about the need for a vision. And you and all the council, really, including the mayor, have expressed similar ideas. So the timing is good. The foundation just had their gala. I think now would be a good time to meet. In fact, the mayor and I talked about this recently, that we'd like to sit down with the chair and talk about the need for a board retreat, talk about the importance of visioning beyond their normal annual strategic plan that they put together, to be sure that this highly valuable partner of the city is on the cutting edge moving forward the next 10, 15, 20 years. Because it took 30 years to get to where we're at now, we need to plan for the next couple of decades and have to make sure that we're all aligned with that vision. If the council wants to continue to provide this in-kind support to the foundation, which I assume you do, but you want to be aligned with the vision. So that's a lot. I appreciate you bringing it up. I think that the opportunity is good to meet with the chair once again. I know the mayor's interested in doing so. We'll do that in short order and be able to report back to city council. We've tried to make this turnkey for the foundation board too, because we do have our consultant Strategize, who we've done a lot of work with and who's helped us on our Visioning 2040 plan, who would gladly help them out at a very reasonable cost. So thank you for bringing up the issue, and I will look forward to reporting back to you on it.
Thank you very much. One other thing, we were talking about sidewalks. I know Clinton River is going to be redone, paved. Can I have my sidewalks also?
You're there, right?
I thought they were.
Are they finished?
Mayor, I can respond. Councilman Koski.
I'll respond, Mr. Mayor. They're not done.
No, they're
Early drive yet?
They're
No.
90% done. We do have a glitch on the corner of Saul and Clinton River where the easement is not perfectly aligned according to the legal description and so on. So we have a slight delay there. It is imminent. We did fill most of the gaps this year that you were most interested in, but you're right, we're not 100% complete.
And that will happen when?
Well, the city attorney might be better able to respond, but we have to correct the easement problem right now, which could be we're hoping it's next construction season.
What you're saying is we're putting it back into the budget next year.
It
Correct.
will be in the budget, I assure you,
Thank you.
assuming you approve the budget.
I wouldn't count on it. Anything else?
That's it, thank you.
Okay, that reminded me of my college football playing days where I punted.
Marie's got to go too, and I was-
Give it to Mr. Koszewski.
It's too late for the construction.
Do you want me to go next?
Whichever one,
I can.
or
I
if
can do
Mrs.
it.
Schmidt wants to
Mrs.
go.
Schmidt? Go ahead. Okay.
I guess.
You have some stuff too? Yeah. Okay, we'll save some time for you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. First of all, as Councilman Radke and Mr. Vanderpool mentioned, that several of us were at the National League of Cities in Atlanta, and it's an experience. It's a learning experience. We actually walked 40 miles last week.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know that's hard, but that was what my Fitbit told me on Monday morning, is that I walked 40 miles. So, it was, and I don't want to, there was enough said. We drove in an autonomous vehicle to check out a route. You know, they explained it to us. There's a lot of sustainability. Housing is another big issue. The opioid crisis was another topic that we learned about. And some of it is how it happened to begin with the pharmacies or the pharmaceutical companies actually just pushing their drugs. So it was interesting. We did have a session with Jose Andres, who founded the World central kitchen that goes into devastated areas of the world and cooks for people after earthquakes. He's in Poland and Ukraine right now. They're feeding the people there. So it's wherever there's a natural disaster or a war, they are almost the first ones there as civilians to help people out by giving them food. So it was interesting to listen to him. And we can go on and on about what was there and what we're going to bring back, and, but I think a lot of it's really been covered. But the highlight is when Mrs. Schmidt and I were coming home on the plane, Lieutenant Governor Garland Gilchrist was there, and we actually had a conversation with him. And he was in Atlanta for something different. And when we explained to him that we had been at the National League of Cities, he actually thanked us for going and putting Michigan input into what was going on in the country. So we were excited about that. So, so that was a highlight on the way back. Let's go to, I'm going to go to the lift assist, because it does bother me that people are getting charged for it, because that wasn't our intention. So is there a way that we could go back on some of these calls that we get and find out if they were initiated by the person that needs the lift or the facility? Is what I would really, who initiates those calls? So, I mean, is it the person that has maybe a medical alert or whatever and then calls 911? Or is it actually the facility that calls the 911 in order to help the resident? So if we could get some kind of report on that, I would really appreciate it, because it's something that I think has to stop. And if I'm right, I think that that is the only facility in the city out of the 27, 29 that is passing the cost on to their residents. So that tells you it's been successful in other places. Let's go to, and then Mr. Soroka. Okay. We've had this debate about bike lanes versus trails. And after listening to you, I'm going to continue to push for the trails, because when I talk to people that ride their bikes, they feel safer on the trails than they do on a bike lane, in a bike lane. So I wholeheartedly agree with you that we have opportunities here in the city to provide paths for non-motorized transportation that'll get people from one place to another safely. And I really think that we should take advantage of some of those spaces that we have right now, whether it be the Sterling Relief Drain or whether it's through the ITC corridors. But the opportunity is there, and it's not going to happen overnight, but I think we can continue to plug away at making it safe for people to enjoy themselves, whether they be biking or walking or, you know, taking their dogs out. But I think it's a safe way to do it, and I'm glad you brought up, you know, street bike, or bikes being on the streets. The other thing would be, I'm going to agree with Mrs. Koski today about some kind of vision plan for the foundation. And if it's possible, I mean, I know that we're autonomous, but is there a way that we could get a copy of the bylaws of the foundation? I would actually like to see what responsibilities they have right now, and you know, where or what means they have to raise money as far, and also what places they can distribute that money. So if we could do that. I know they have a public meeting in April, and I think it would be a good idea if, after we talk to them, that some of us attend the meeting and at least listen to what they have to say in their annual report. But I think, and I'm glad Mrs. Koski brought it up, because I think you're the only one here that was around when the foundation was actually formed. So I think, you know, giving us that perspective helps a lot as to what the vision was to begin with and what it is now. And I think that's about it. And happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Enjoy. That's it.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Zarko. Mrs. Schmidt.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. Just briefly, without going into redundancy of the city summit in Atlanta, I did want to bring out one fact that wasn't mentioned. And Mrs. Ziarko and I attended the Women in Municipal Government Luncheon, breaking attendance records the participation of women in city government now has just skyrocketed, and I couldn't be happier to represent the city in that capacity. I think it's important. You know, we actually, Sterling Heights has had a majority female council quite often. So, you know what, we're doing, we're doing something right here. So I appreciate that. It was a great conference, learned a lot. Learned that Mrs. Yarko does not mind sitting through some rap and participates. So that was really like the icing on the cake.
It was a party.
They're a very kind city. They treated us very well. So enough about that. I too wanted to address the facility. There's a very simple solution that doesn't cost a whole lot of money for that facility, and that is for them to buy a piece of equipment called a Hoyer lift. And it's very easy to run. It's very easy to get a patient up off the floor without calling 911 or the fire department. They can do it themselves. So shame on them. And this is not the intent of the council when we came up with this ordinance. But I hope you do fight it. And, I think you have the city council's support on this. It's unconscionable. It's unconscionable. So that being said, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Nothing more.
Thank you, Mrs. Schmidt. Mr. Yanas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I do want to address also the lift assist situation. So this young lady called me today. She came all the way down from Romeo to address city council in regards to this issue. I apologize. I should have let your call go to voicemail because I didn't write your name down. So, but this is about her mother who simply slid out of her wheelchair. She didn't fall. She didn't get hurt. She just simply slid out of her wheelchair and needed help getting back in her wheelchair and called staff. Correct me if I'm wrong. Called staff, and staff called the fire department.
Guess I want to know.
And the most insidious part about the bill is when the family asked for the bill to pay it, they said, no, you pay us and we'll pay the bill, because they wanted to make sure they got credit for paying the bill and passing it along, which upsets me greatly, and I almost used the word I shouldn't use on live TV, or recorded TV. Last week, I attended a meeting for the Area Agency on Aging, and I found out that there's a lack of ombudsman in this state. There is one ombudsman for over 9,000 beds in these facilities. As a matter of fact, I look up the ombudsman for Macomb County. We have one ombudsman that represents all of Macomb and St. Clair County. So I don't even know how these people get any work done, and I don't know, first of all, families don't even know that there is an ombudsman. I don't know, did you know that? There isn't, okay. That they can reach out to if they have any issue with the facility that they're living in. They are the representative of the people that live in these facilities to the facility and the state of Michigan. But that's not much help when you got one person running all over two counties trying to, put out fires. This is a facility that's licensed by the state of Michigan, am I correct, Mr. City Attorney? Mm-hmm. Through the chair. It is not licensed?
No,
It is not licensed by the state. It is assisted living only?
it's senior living.
It's senior living. It's senior living.
That advertises assisted living components.
Yes, they have, you could pay extra
We're gonna,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
and nobody can hear when you talk from there. So I don't mean to cut you off, but
No, that's my fault because I started
if
the
you have
conversation
questions
with
for
her.
her, you can call her up to.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to clarify, because she did pass along the information, which was the bill and the letter that the facility sent to the family. So for us to see, frankly, I don't know what direction to go with this. If it's not, I thought it was a licensed facility if it's not. But there has to be something. They do business here in the city of Sterling Heights. I did talk to the fire chief, and he told me that our ordinance is working. Our run numbers are down. So, that's great news, but we must find a mechanism, some way, somehow, so families like this aren't hit with these big bills. I don't know if somebody saw the Channel 4 report this week, but they talked about surprise billing from an ambulance company where people are getting tens of thousands of dollars in bills, and you don't even know it until the bill hits your desk, and then they expect you to pay it, right? So I'm not sure what direction we need to go with this, but we need to do something. I think we did a great job putting this ordinance together. It was a great first step, but obviously somebody found a loophole, and we need to make sure that that gets addressed, and I'm not sure how, but we need to do it. Maybe we can call the state, I don't know, they have to be licensed to do business, right, in the state of Michigan? To the chair, to the city attorney? Sorry, I'm sorry.
Mr. Koszybski.
Well, they are a business registered in the state of Michigan. They don't have an independent licensing aspect like you would have for a hospital or a assisted living home or something of that nature where there's like a nursing home that's
Right,
licensed.
I gotcha. But do they get a license to establish a business in the city of Sterling Heights? Is there some sort of licensing
They
mechanism?
do have a business license in Sterling Heights, yes.
Okay, all right. I guess we need to further the conversation on this. I'm not willing to let this slide through the cracks, absolutely not. So I guess we'll further carry on the conversation. I wish I could give you a better answer, but thank you for coming down here tonight. I do want to also address the trails. Thank you, sir, for coming out tonight and talking about the trails. Last week I attended the Youth Advisory Board meeting, and one of the questions I asked the folks on the board about, what would make you, want to stay here, establish a home in Sterling Heights and all that. One of the things that came up was connection, the trails, the walkability, riding your bikes and all that stuff. Very important to the people who are going to be the homeowners in Sterling Heights here in the future. So we've already done a great job with that, and we're moving forward, and that's on the forefront of everything that we do here in Sterling Heights is adding that connectivity. Very difficult to do when you have a city that was made up out of mostly farmland, where everybody just kind of cut out a square and built houses, but it's getting done, and we'll continue to do it. And it's just good to know that, you get that feedback from someone who may be a homeowner here in Sterling Heights. And something I read here very recently, and something I've known, I think everybody on this dais has known for a long time, but, business follows talent, and talent establishes itself in a place where they want to live. So, we're doing our best to try to attract that talent and bring business here and keep Sterling Heights growing. So that's fantastic. And then last but not least, I got another phone call today about the ITC corridor. And so through the chair to the city manager, I need to know, is there any restrictions from ITC in regards to where that trail has to go? I was told that it's 50 feet from the property line. Is that a rule from ITC? Is ITC flexible on that? That there is a significant amount of woodlands between the homeowners and the open part of the corridor. And of course, they want that trail as far away from their homes. They want to preserve as many trees as possible, and sort of that nature effect that they have now. So, would we be able to make sure that trail, at least in that small section of the trail, be moved as far away from the houses as possible so they can keep as many trees as possible? Through the chair.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilman Yanez, we're working with ITC as we speak. We're looking at all options there. I will say it's going to be very, very difficult to move that further out, in large part because that particular section has ancillary electrical lines even outside the corridor, the corridor as we all know it. So that's a real challenge because ITC will not allow the path to be directly under those lines are conflicting in any way with those poles and the like. So it is a bit of a challenge. Nevertheless, we're not going to give up. We're going to see if there's any flexibility there. But irregardless, if it does have to go in the current proposed location, there will be significant tree buffering and landscaping and the like that will shield it some. So we're not tearing out all the trees, and any trees that do have to be torn out will be replaced, as I mentioned at the last meeting. But we are continuing to work on it. I will be able to report back to council once we get a little further along.
Well, I certainly hope the city has good communication with the homeowners there, because right now, it's, all they see is the surveyor shooting lines, and that's really kind of all the information they have, other than calling Mr. Castor and getting information from him. So, you know, if we could have good communication with them and letting them know if there is a reason why, like there's ancillary power lines or something like that, then, you know, we need to let them know that there's a technical reason why we can't put the trail farther out or whatever. But, you know, a little communication goes a long way. So I'd certainly appreciate that. And that's it. Besides that, happy Thanksgiving, everybody, and go Lions.
Absolutely. Go Lions. Okay, so I actually went out and met with Pine Ridge several months ago. I went out to Pine Ridge right after this ordinance passed. I met with their manager. I met with 10, 12, 14 residents or so and heard their concerns, and I understand their concerns. However, Pine Ridge, in the meeting that I had with them, Pine Ridge tries to make it seem like they're no different than any other apartment complex in the city of Sterling Heights, that they don't provide assisted living. That's why they're not licensed with the state of Michigan, that they are a independent living facility where they essentially just lease an apartment, and now you have an apartment, but they offer all sorts of add-ons as well. Now, I don't know exactly how their pricing works and how their rent works there, whether you're required to have a meal plan or not. But first of all, I want to point out that on their website, if I could get it back up, they list countless amenities, you know, dining room, cafe, enrichment room, library, fitness center, theater, wellness center, billiard, salon. They also advertise on their website transportation, 24-hour emergency response system, on-site, home health, and rehab services. So I think they're advertising this and they're getting people to go live there with the idea that, hey, we're going to take care of all your needs. We've had a lot of apartment complexes come up before us, okay? And usually somebody on the council will ask the apartment complex owners, what are your rents going to be? And the rents are usually something between $1,500 and, I don't know, maybe we've had some a little over $2,000, but, you know, they're not much more than $200 to $2,500 a month. And that would probably be on the very high end, I think, in the city of Sterling Heights. Here they're advertising 2-bedroom, 2-bath, starting at $3,970. 2-bedroom, 2-bath, starting at $4,100. That's 804 square feet for $4,100 a month, okay? 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 881 square feet, $3,910. And the 1-bedroom, 1-bath, that's only 581 square feet, is starting at $3,100 a month, okay? So give me a break. And I met with them and I was patient with them and I appreciate what they're saying, but this is almost a rounding error that it's going to get passed on to the residents one way or the other. That's just the bottom line. That's how every service is, you know, and every charge is going to be passed on to the people that live there. But I don't think it's going to be quite as bad as Mr. Vanderpool says. If they're getting out there once a week, that's maybe 50 times a year, $40,000 a year. $40,000 spread out over 110 units is even less than $60 a month. So I think it's manageable if they do that. Now, I said to them, just like Mrs. Schmidt said, they can buy this Hoyer lift. It's like $2,500 for a good one. There's some a little more, there's some a little less. They said, we don't have anybody who can use it. And that's probably what happened with your loved one, is that even though they advertise that we've got all this staff and we've got everything, the reality is that they don't. At least that's what they say. They say, we don't have any staff there who can do anything like this. So there are alternatives that they have available to them, but for whatever reason, they haven't pursued those yet. So I've communicated back and forth, and I will express to the management at Pine Ridge that the city council is very upset about the way that this is going, and that they need to figure out a better solution, and they need to do that quickly. So I appreciate you being here and sitting through all of this, and certainly you have a unified city council that believes that this needs to be changed somehow. So, so thank you again. I want to say hi to the scouts we have out in the audience today. A couple scouts. How you guys doing today? Stand up. Yes, stand up.
We will.
So it's good to see scouts here. It's good to have you guys involved and engaged in the civic processes and being involved in the city. And to you, young man, I knew your dad when we were younger than you. So we've been friends for almost our entire life, and so it's good to see you guys here. Matt, hope you're doing well. Tell your parents, Sterling Heights residents, I said hello. And happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Let's beat the Packers.
Yeah.
Go Lions.
Let's have a good, clean game on Saturday with no cheating, and I'll leave it at that.
Oh, please. Now you're getting me riled up. Talk about cheating. Their coaches and suspended.
It's not directed at you.
That was to
It's not directed at you.
Their coaches and suspended.
I think you doth protest too much.
Can we just not wait until the last minute to win, please?
I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move. Support.
Moved and supported. No discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Meeting adjourned. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.